Sip of water.
Hi, and welcome to the first of hopefully several videos that we plan to put out. We are the Association of Maine Cancer Support Centers, and that is simply a collaboration of different Maine organizations providing cancer-related resources, supports, services, complementary therapies, and we offer these to a variety of different people, from patients to caregivers to family members. Through our association of our multiple organizations, we really aim to provide enhanced services and reach more people with the services that we're providing. And that was what kind of brought this video project to life. We created it to really address some of the issues that are coming up around cancer diagnosis in Maine in the midst of a global pandemic, and how are people navigating this with the cancer diagnosis that they're dealing with. And we wanted an opportunity to be able to share some of the resources that are currently available here in our state through the abundance of association members that we have involved. And so today we're highlighting just a few on a specific topic, and we will have different guests as we proceed through this video series and different themes each week. And so I want you to check back and learn more about different opportunities to plug into the necessary resources for different cancer issues that people are facing in this current pandemic situation. So our theme today is stress, fear, emotional impacts of cancer. One of the many immediate needs that cancer patients are experiencing really is this increased mental health, need for increased mental health support. And they're already, with a cancer diagnosis, they're already dealing with and experiencing higher levels of stress and anxiety due just to hearing those words, you have cancer. And so this is now being further exacerbated by this time that we're living in, this COVID-19 pandemic. ACS did a research project earlier this year, and nationally they found out that 1 in 4 cancer patients reports having delays in their care or their treatment related to the pandemic. And so that just adds more fuel to that stress and fear and emotionally charged fire that they're already dealing with. So our panel today is going to explain how the pandemic has heightened fear and stress in the cancer community, and talk about some of the strategies for dealing with stress and emotional turbulence that people are feeling, and how they can overcome some of those stresses and fears through the midst of social isolation and being physically distant from other people that may be able to corroborate and come alongside and support them. So thank you to our panelists. Welcome. I'm gonna have you each, if you wouldn't mind, just introducing yourselves.
Sure, yeah. Hi, thank you. Thank you for having us. This is wonderful. My name is Patti Sands. I'm the Psychosocial Services Coordinator and one of the counselors at the Dempsey Center. Dempsey Center physical locations are in Lewiston and South Portland. And our mission really is to make life better for anyone impacted by cancer. So that can be the person with the diagnosis, the families, the loved ones, support people. And so I'll stop there.
All right, thank you. And Jen?
Hi, and thank you. I'm Jen Harry, and I'm a mindfulness and meditation teacher and a resiliency trainer. My business is Infusion Mindfulness, and I specialize in stress reduction and mindfulness tools for real life. And I'm just really passionate about providing people with tools and practices that can help them navigate the ups and downs of life and increase their own well-being. I find it super empowering, and yeah. Well,
awesome. And I think I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Bethany Zell. I'm the president of the Maine Breast Cancer Coalition, and I am one of the members of the Association for Maine Cancer Support Centers. I'm going to be facilitating this discussion today, and we've had some questions that we kind of collaborated on and came up with that people might be wondering and inquiring about as we approach cancer care and living with a cancer diagnosis in a COVID-19 pandemic kind of world. So how has the current COVID-19 pandemic really caused a heightened fear or stress in the Maine cancer community? What have you been seeing?
I'll jump in, I guess. I guess one of the first things I just want to say, and Jen, I imagine you see this as well, is that folks with cancer diagnoses and those supporting them are some of the most resilient folks I've ever met, because they're already facing incredible uncertainty, and they're used to adjusting to unwanted realities all along. And so this added layer of uncertainty is certainly adds more stress to that, because our brains really don't like uncertainty. We want to know the plan. Why did that happen? And of course, in this environment, we don't have answers, and we don't have answers to when this is going to end. I also think that one of the major threads that's in there for folks now, or people I talk to say it, that is in the mix of all this, is this collective and individual grief that's occurring for the world as we know it. We know this will pass, but we don't know what it will look like or what it will be. And I think that adds a layer of feelings that are all so normal for all of us going through this. And then you add, of course, the questions that come about with a cancer diagnosis, such as, can I get treatment like I normally do? And how do I stay safe? The things that add another layer. I think just the last thing that I found so interesting was kind of a twist to this whole question from folks with cancer. And this, one of the responses has been that I didn't expect, Jen, and I'll be curious if you found this as well, is, I've been doing social distancing for a while. I've been taking care of my immune system for a while now. I've had to isolate. I kind of got this. Like I'm hearing from folks, kind of got this. And I think that's a lovely sentiment that I hadn't expected from people. But I also then hear after that recognition that now everybody else is kind of catching up to them in a way. But that the added part to that is this fear of getting sick from COVID because their immunity is depressed, or might be not as strong as it needs to be. And then with the diagnosis and treatment, you have some sense of an end of treatment and possibly a getting stronger in terms of your immune system. And with this, we don't really know what the end is and how it's going to work to go back to grocery shopping and all of those things that we used to take for granted. So I'll be quiet now because I'd love to hear what Jen has to say on the subject.
I think I can only add a couple of things to that, because I think you've really covered a lot of what I'm hearing as well. I think that one concern I've heard about is with people who are experiencing a lot of anxiety and fear and stress, that they then sometimes start being anxious about being anxious, where they start to worry about how much they're stressing out and how that's hard on the immune system, and so it just starts off the spiral. But I also too have heard about, a lot of the people who have already been working to take care of their immune systems and sort of staying in anyway. And I've had quite a few people who have been doing that and really enjoyed that time. So, that is, a strength that they already have within this time period. And yeah, I think you really covered well, Patty, the range of things that I'm seeing besides that, yeah.
Yeah.
So when we talk about some of the stressors and the emotional turbulence that people are dealing with when they hear this, you have cancer, get that cancer diagnosis, what are some of the strategies that you equip people with for dealing with stress and dealing with that emotional turbulence? I know you both have kind of different tool bags and different ideas and tips and things. So maybe give us a few ideas on strategies.
Oh. should I go first this time?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Okay. Well, I think what's really important is starting to understand it's that starting to learn about your own stress response and becoming aware of what's happening. So when you're starting to ramp up and feel really stressed and anxious. And then once you get familiar with that, feeling it where you're feeling it in your body, and then you can start to use tools to calm that stress response. Because it's really hard to think clearly when you're in the midst of that worry and anxiety. So there's so many different tools you can use to calm your nervous system, but one is just connecting with your breath. Because what happens is when we get really stressed out, we start to breathe really shallowly and quickly, and then we're not getting as much oxygen, and that ramps up our anxiety. So if we can just do that one thing, connect in with our breath, notice it, slow it down, make it a little deeper, that can help activate the part of our nervous system that counteracts that fight or flight, so we can feel a little calmer, and then begin to start really figuring out what we can do, be able to think more clearly about what actions we are able to take in this time. And so, there's the belly breathing, noticing tension. Another thing is noticing, when we get stressed, the first thing that, for me, and it's different for everybody, but I notice my shoulders start getting really tense. And, maybe your jaw, or you might be making fists. And so just checking in with your body in that way. Doing these kind of things really it helps ground you in the present moment, because a lot of our fear and anxiety come when we start thinking about the future and all the uncertainty, and we start being like, well, what if this? And we create all kinds of scenarios in our heads. And there's definitely valid worries, but when we think about it and our thoughts start to spiral, it can really ramp up how we're feeling. So if we can ground into the present moment, that can help bring us back from, the anxiety thoughts just sort of getting worse and worse in our heads. So every time we breathe, we're in the present moment, right? We can't breathe in the future. We can't breathe in the past. We can only do it right now. So that helps ground us. Just, a simple technique, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, is to come to the present moment, is just when you notice that stress response in your body and you notice your thoughts are starting to go, notice 5 things that you can see. So notice and name 5 things you can see, 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can touch, 2 that you can smell, and 1 that you can taste. And that sort of helps break up that chain of anxious thinking and calm the body and bring you back into the present moment. Let me see if there's 1,000 tools I can talk about. So those are just a couple of simple and easy ones that you can use in the present moment. But I'd also say reach out and connect to people. Connect to other people who are going through similar things. There are so many people going through so much right now. And sometimes we feel really alone when we're suffering, but we're not alone. There's so many people who are having the same experience, and we can connect in and get connected to other people for support and to help us navigate these times of ups and downs. So I'll just stop there because I can talk about tools all day long.
Well, I love the ones that you mentioned. I think they're great, and they're so accessible, and you don't need anything to do them. They're right there. And it made me remember a similar one, which is to sit down and name every color that you can in the room. And it also has that grounding sense of, while you're naming colors, it's really hard to be worrying and spiraling at the same time. And we all know colors from when we're little, and so you don't have to use any oxygen and pathways that your brain might not be able to access because they're in fear right at that moment. So thank you for jogging my memory on that one. A few others, I love Mr. Rogers, and I love the movies that have come out with him and about him. And I think his quote is something like, everything that is mentionable is manageable. And another sort of shorter version of that is, to name it is to claim it. And I think you were getting at it, Jen, by saying the very first thing is to notice what the emotion is. And then if you can name it, it somehow loses its huge power over us. So I think that that's one thing, a very basic thing to start with. And then sort of along with that is kind of be careful. We all talk to ourselves, and be careful what messages that we're saying. Like, if, for example, if we say something like, you know, the world will never be the same, and I'm just going to be terrified forever, that might be not as helpful as saying something different, like, you know, this is a challenging time for all of us, and there's a great deal of uncertainty, but here's where I can take some wise actions for keeping myself safe now. So it has that same pull towards the moment and away from the fear and what you can do and what you can control. So be careful of the messages. The deep breathing and the guided meditations, and maybe at the end of this, there's some wonderful free apps now that you can go on to help with breathing and some guided meditation, because I don't know about anybody else, but I need somebody guiding me through the meditations. I can't sit there and not have a voice telling me what to think about. You're probably much better at it than I am, Jen, but I need a guided meditation. And then that, it sounds so, I don't know, basic, but it's so important, which is that pay attention to your self-care in every way that you can. Like, if you're up for some physical activity, even if it's walking around the house, do that. Or like you were saying, stretches, you know, to make sure our attention isn't all here. Staying connected, like you said, Jen, to other people is not just a help for yourself, but it's helping others too. So it has that wonderful quality of going both ways, which I think can be, finding meaning in this can be really a wonderful thing. If you're up for it, keep a gratitude journal, because it really keeps us in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I have a roof over my head, I have food in the fridge, you know, what are the things that I can be named that are I can be grateful for. And then, to the degree that you can, all of our routines and all of our structures have been thrown off, but to the degree that you can kind of gain them back, and even if it's keeping more or less a similar bedtime and wake time every day, or dividing your day into chunks, like this is meal time and this is work study and this is exercise time, or whatever it is, to have a structure, I think can keep us grounded more in the now and away from the fears. And then last tidbit is to look at none of us like the feeling of feeling out of control, and we've had to manage that a lot through COVID, and certainly with a cancer diagnosis can feel like the most out of control thing in the world, is to take back what you can control. And for some people, that's as simple as keeping the kitchen counter clean, or going through old books and keeping the ones that are really sacred to you and donating the rest. There's just lots of ways to take control of the things that we actually have some control over.
May I add? I love those, Patty. I love all of those, and I use a lot of those as well too. I was wondering if I could add one more thing that I think you sort of touched on, self-compassion.
Oh,
I think this one is so important, is really, you know, when we're going through, basically self-compassion is good anytime, but it's especially important when we're going through challenges and hard times. And, you know, this is throwing us off in all kinds of different ways, and a cancer diagnosis throws us off in all kinds of different ways. And so we're experiencing, you know, all these ups and downs and things feeling so out of control. And so being gentle with and kind to ourselves. You mentioned being careful what we say, being kind in our thoughts. So noticing how we're talking to ourselves and making sure that we're extra kind. If we notice ourselves saying something not so nice to ourselves, switching it and maybe saying something like what you would say to a friend or a child, rather than, you know, some of the, I don't know about you, but I think we all have this harsh inner dialogue sometimes. We're really tough on ourselves. But doing that, and also being gentle with ourselves in what we get done, you know, what we get done. People are feeling a drive like, you know, we're all home, we should be doing 8,000 things right now, but and then feeling like we can't do anything. And so if we feel like that, maybe we just rest, and that's being kind and compassionate to ourselves, is taking time to ask ourselves, what do I need right now? And then and being, you know, going inside for a moment, and the answer to that question will come. And maybe you need to take a nap. Maybe you need to just read a book or watch Netflix for a little while. You know, I think just really taking that time to check in with yourself and be kind to yourself, and gentle as we go through this, because it's not easy. It's hard stuff.
I'm so glad you added that in. It's such a huge point, and so important. And redefining productivity to include self-care and compassion, I think, is huge. So thank you.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Those were all great tips, and ones I've heard of. I'm excited to try some of these for myself when I start feeling a little stressed out. So going on with our questions, what resources are your organizations currently providing that address some of these stress, fear, or emotional concerns that people who might be facing this cancer diagnosis in Maine could access?
Do you want to go first, Jen?
Well, I went first last time. I thought maybe we can alternate.
Do you want me to talk about sort of the Dempsey Center in its current, in our virtual world right now, or both?
And it may be, and actually our two final questions do kind of blend together well. So maybe, yeah, talk a little bit about what your organization provides, and maybe how you've had to adapt some of those resources for this current scenario, you know, because obviously the conversation about current offerings will be under the construct of this pandemic. So our final two questions really are combined in that way. So you want to talk about that a little bit, Patty?
Sure, yeah. So like I said, the Dempsey Center is in Lewiston and South Portland, our brick and mortar, and we provide massage, Reiki, and acupuncture are some of the things that we provide. We have lots of different kinds of consultations around nutrition and exercise and wig fitting and resource navigation. We provide short-term counseling to folks. One of my main roles there is that, and that's for adults and couples, families, and kids. Our program for kids is called Healing Tree, and that's our services that fall under different types of counseling and programs for kids. One of our huge offerings is support groups, and in our regular time, our non-COVID time, we have general cancer support groups as well as diagnosis-specific support groups, and both closed groups, meaning 8-week, you sign up and you go to all weeks, as well as a lot of drop-in. We have caregiver support groups, really robust. Very proud of them all, and that people get a huge amount from them. We also have programs kind of like crazy. We have educational programs, movement and fitness programs, nutrition and cooking, youth and family programs that are ongoing and diverse. And do you want me to go into sort of how we've adapted those rather than go back and forth? Would that be
Sure, yeah, it makes sense.
So one of the things that we do when people that are new to the Dempsey Center find out about it is we invite them in to come in for an orientation or an intake. And it's a great way to understand, sort of, first of all, to make it less scary, because you're coming into the space and seeing how inviting it is, but also to get a sense of all the different services and to sort of customize them for you in particular with your circumstance. And we now are able to offer virtual orientations, which is, we just started and people are loving them, and the people that give them are loving giving them. So that's really cool. We have a really nice website, dempseycenter.org, where you can sign up for, we call them e-news or e-blasts, and they highlight the new things that we have going in the organization. So please feel free to go to the website and sign up for those. We started, when this all happened, something called Dempsey Connects. And if you go to our website, right on the first page, you'll see Dempsey Connects, and it's divided right now into 4 different sections: stress management, nutrition, movement and fitness, and education and learning. And under each section, there are webinars, articles, printable handouts that we've all vetted and we think are really good under each of those sections. Coming soon, we've got one that's going to be particular to children, all ages, and also grief and bereavement as another section. So we have 4 topics now, and we hope to have 6 very soon. We launched virtual support groups, which has been really exciting. So we have 5 now, 2 general virtual support groups, 2 breast cancer groups, and 1 teen group. So that's been a whole brave new world that we're hoping to actually continue into the future, even when we do get to come back to the center, because there's people in Maine that can't come in, as well as people that don't feel well enough to come in. So that's been a lovely launch for something we've been talking about doing. And now this forced us to do it, and it's really working well. So that's good. We still are able to offer one-on-one consultations with nutrition. You can meet with a nutritionist. Someone will sort of customize a fitness session for you and talk about your challenges, as well as we'll do online WIG consults. We have been able to continue our counseling sessions, and we've switched to either phone or virtual with all of our clients that wanted to continue counseling. We have something called the Maine Cancer Mentor Program, which it connects people with a diagnosis with another person with a similar diagnosis or similar issues, so that they can talk about what it was like for them. So that program's ongoing, as well as a bunch now of online fitness classes and nutrition classes. We have caring calls, so some of our folks are just calling our clients and saying, how you doing? We care about you, we miss you. And then I really want to just say, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that the Dempsey Challenge is going to happen one way or the other. It always happens in September. This year it's September 26th and 27th. So it will be in some version, and signups are already live now for participating. So that's our virtual world, which actually, in talking about it, it's pretty robust. So it's fun to sort of say it all at once and hear.
Yeah, you got a lot going on.
A lot going on.
Sounds like you haven't missed a beat, although I'm sure there was time needed to kind of transition into the virtual sphere. So how about you, Jen? What are some things you're offering, and how have you had to make some adaptation to what you offered and made it more in line with our current world?
Well, yes, I've been doing a monthly group at the Beth C. Wright Cancer Resource Center called Tools for Wellbeing, and it's the 3rd Friday of every month, and it's a drop-in group, and that's been going on for almost a year and a half now. And during each session, we learn a new tool, learn and practice a new tool, and we have a little guided relaxation because we can all use that. And we have a chance to check in with each other and see what tools we're using, troubleshoot, just talk about things we want to talk about. And it's a really lovely group of people who are participating. And we've been meeting in person and now we are doing it virtually. So that's a really interesting change, getting adjusted to that. And, you know, some people phone in and some people are on the computer. But it's so nice to get a chance to see each other again after, you know, not being able to for a while. So I've been doing that. I do workshops, workshop series about stress and mindfulness, meditation for businesses and nonprofits in Maine. So if people are interested, they can get in touch. And we can do them virtually. Basically, all my work now, to answer that last question, is either virtually or by phone, which I'm very grateful to be able to have. Somebody said, I was talking to somebody the other day and they were saying they were going to throw their phone into the ocean when this was over. And I said, imagine if we only had a landline right now.
I know. Oh my God.
But also I work with people individually as well. So people can contact me and, you know, have instruction on mindfulness tools and practices, stress reduction tools and practices, ways to become more resilient, guided relaxation, one of my personal favorite things. Yeah, and I have, so my website is www.jen@jenharry.com. So you can check that out. I think that'll be in the notes. And Patti had mentioned using apps for guided relaxation, and I just wanted to share that there's so many great ones right now. Some of the ones I really like is there's a free one called Insight Timer. That's the one I use the most because I can use it as it has a timer, so I can just meditate, and then it has all kinds of guided things, including sleep stories, which I've really been enjoying. It's having somebody read you a bedtime story is really helpful because sleep can be quite disturbed right now. I also like Headspace that has great instructions for people learning new ones. There's one called 10% Happier that I like with a very skeptical person. So Dan Harris, if you're skeptical about meditation, that's a great one to check out. He has all kinds of different teachers and he's always asking skeptical questions of them. So that's a good one. And there's one called Calm too that a lot of people like. So just throw out those resources and yeah, feel free to contact me with questions, comments, concerns. I'm always happy to answer and talk to people. So
wonderful. Well, we will be sure to have some links down in the comments or the description video that kind of shows where you can connect with both Patti and Jen and find some of the resources that they shared here today. We thank you guys so much for being here to share on this important topic that, I mean, it's amazing when you think about how much our world has changed just in a few short months, but cancer hasn't changed. People are still living with cancer, still needing treatments for cancer. They're still concerned about things that concern cancer patients and people living with the disease, and that goes on even in the midst of a pandemic. So it's wonderful to hear that there are emotional supports and resources and even little tips and tricks that we can do right at home to help with some of those things that we might be dealing with in this especially stressful and emotional time. So thank you both for being here, and we hope you'll all come back and watch us again. We'll have more of these videos on a weekly basis, again on different topics. We invite you to message us either through YouTube or one of our member organizations if you have questions or topics you'd like to see in a future video. And have a great day. Be well, take care of yourselves, and look for ways to take care of yourselves in the midst of this crazy world. We've gotten some great ideas today, and it can be done. And more importantly, plug in with others, stay connected. And that's what we're trying to do here. Stay connected with you all and let you know that we're here to help in so many different ways. We look forward to sharing more of that with you in the future. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
yeah, thanks for having us and for all the hard work that you're doing to make sure people are connected to things that they need. So thank you.